And I guess I'm baffled by that. The only thing that can explain this action in my mind right now is there's pressure building in your districts, and people want to see that you're actually doing something. That's the only thing that makes any sense here at all, because this is Groundhog Day. It's actually $2 billion richer Groundhog Day. This has already been tried, and the money isn't there, and we've had this conversation over and over again. Just appropriating money that isn't there, it isn't giving comfort to people. It's leading them down a path because somebody is not going to get the money. This doesn't change the fact that we're going to have 32 to 33 billion in revenue. Doesn't change it at all. Just adds a few more billion of people who think they're going to get paid but aren't. We tried the just raise taxes and don't really cut anything approach in 2011. Saw the largest spike in unemployment of any state in the country. It didn't get rid of the deficit like you said it would. We have to do things differently. We've been saying this and we're blue in the face all spring. I think some of you understand it, which is what makes this so frustrating, that you're just going to go back and revert to more tax and spend without any reform when you saw that didn't work. The governor came in good faith and continues to this day in good faith to offer to be willing to talk about the revenue necessary to fund priorities as you see them in exchange for reforms that can make us more competitive, make more job growth possible here, and bring the overall cost of doing business for governments in Illinois and businesses in Illinois lower. But so far there has been no ability whatsoever, despite, frankly, I think the best intentions of your caucus, because the speaker still rules the roost. There has been zero progress because the speaker's version of compromise is, no, I don't meet you in the middle, you capitulate completely to me. And of course you all know that because you've lived with him for all these years. The governor is working in good faith to try to resolve this. I think you are too. I don't know how this fits into it, but I do think you are too. We're going to get somewhere when we finally get reforms that can bring the cost of doing business down and get the governor on board with a budget. But continuing to put this out so you can go home and tell people you did something for them when everyone in this room knows you didn't do a thing with this bill is cynical politics. May make you feel good on the ride home, but it doesn't do anything for the people back home you say you're down here helping. Please, let's get back to the drawing board, get serious about reform, and stop playing these games because they aren't helping anybody. I urge a no vote.
Well, Senator, you sure are being punked. You lit up the board. Thanks. Senator Biss, for what purpose do you rise?
To speak without using the word punked to the bill, Madam President.
Please, punk them.
So I rise this afternoon as someone who did not vote for the budget that the General Assembly passed back in May. And that was a tough call. Reasonable people could have disagreed, but my view was that budget wasn't in balance, and I thought we could do better. I thought we should try to do better, and so I didn't vote for it. Then the budget was vetoed. Nobody asked my opinion about whether that should happen. I personally disagreed with that decision, but you could sort of understand why that happened as well, right? The feeling was, hey, that budget was out of balance. We're going to just scrap it, start again, and wait till we can get to a balanced budget. You can imagine a person coming to that conclusion and saying, we should have a balanced budget or no budget. But so now we're sitting here on September 9th, and I guess we don't have a budget, but money's going out the door, as we all know, but I think we should maybe focus on it a little bit because it's incredible. Even though we don't have a budget, more money is going out the door than is coming in the door. The bill backlog is increasing. The state is kind of on autopilot, as the governor's budget director said in committee yesterday. That ship sailed. There isn't a shutdown. There isn't a create the conditions where people understand what government means and what its absent means and use that as pressure to pass a budget. There's just autopilot, moving on, deficit mounting, debt mounting, except some people are being left behind and they're being hurt badly. We spent the last 2 days in the Human Services Committee hearing testimony about the human consequences of what is not currently authorized as a consequence of either continuing appropriations, the one budget bill that was signed, court orders, or consent decrees. And those human consequences would curdle your blood. So is this situation, this bill before us, the best possible situation? No, of course not. We should pass a balanced budget in a way that's sustainable and funds our priorities and has adequate revenue to do that. Of course we should do that. But I don't see a bill that's going to do that today. I see this bill. And this bill doesn't change the status quo of us not having a sustainable budget. It doesn't change the status quo of us having more money go out the door than comes in. What it changes is the fact that there is an important slice of the most vulnerable citizens in Illinois who are being harmed viciously for no reason while we fight about it. And this bill has the opportunity to slow that down. Not to solve the long-term budget problem, but to allow money to start going out the door to those service providers to help the people they serve so that we don't have the tragic consequences that otherwise will happen as the human service infrastructure of Illinois begins to dissolve this month. That's what this bill does. I have to say, I don't often say this, but the person on that side of the aisle who's made the most sense so far today comes from Lebanon. And what he said that I found very compelling was, hey, we got a big budget problem here, and it's not my fault, it's not your fault, it's not one branch's fault, it's not one chamber's fault, it's all of our fault. It's all of our fault. Let's cut the self-righteousness. Let's all look inside of ourselves. Let's recommit ourselves to sitting down and working this out, solving it in a way that's sustainable, that has adequate revenue to fund the priorities we need to fund. Let's do that quickly. Let's do it effectively. Let's do it constructively. Let's do it well. But until we get there, let's not hurt people for no reason. Today we should vote aye.